Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so we will call the September 20th Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Today's agenda, Mr. Gary.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. My plan is just to kind of walk you through the little packet that staff put together for you. We had some interest in park usage, any comments on any of our improvements and the condition of parks. And from the last budget committee, we had some questions on Forest Road maintenance and kind of where we're at with that, and then a quick update with the solid waste parks building that's underway at the landfill. So if you're okay with that, I'll just kind of walk through the slides and we can talk about anything as you guys want as we go. On page 1 there, the parks usage, you can see that we're up about 500 cars a week visiting our main 3 parks. We have 5. One's Rush Lake and Big Island. I should include, I know we have usage from Ideal Township on Big Island. I don't think we get too much on Rush yet, but we got a new sign for it. But you'll see that on the slide there or on your packet that the highest used is the Fire Tower Park, which is 839 vehicles on average. And you know, when you think about these, we got car counters buried at the entrance on all of our parks, and I think we have about 22 trails. We don't have the trails data in here. We're going to pull those. We got to get them out before freeze up. So we'll have a elongated usage on the trails too that we'll be sending out when we get the data. We just haven't gotten around to get all of the counters pulled. We did focus on the parks for this committee of the whole. But you know, a car goes in, it could be just one person. And by all means, it definitely could be maybe a turnaround, but I think a lot of these, when I personally stop at one of these parks, it's 2 or more people in a vehicle. So, you know, we're easily probably getting quite a few folks per week at all of these parks, let alone think of the traffic at that Fire Tower Park. It's just amazing how many people are utilizing that. And so we're up over 500 a week. I really believe that number is probably only going to go one way. I don't think it's going to go down. I don't know if it's going to go, I know when I say I don't think it's going to go down for a while, I don't know if it's going to go down. It might stable, but I still think people are learning about our parks. You know, we've have a really robust, you know, story that we've been trying to tell and push out where they're at, what you can do there for a couple of years now. But I still think we still have a lot of folks that are a little bit not in the know on where and what they can do sometimes when they're up here, that the county parks have really become another really good place to recreate in our community, our county. So what's really neat about that is your guys' vision with these environmental techs. When you have this many people more, when we get to the comments, never heard a complaint about cleanliness, garbage. We had 2 really big storms this year that had a lot of downed trees in but 2 of our parks, Milford and Fire Tower. We had one that blew over in South Long, but it wasn't blocking a trail. And we've been very responsive on keeping up with the extra activity, and it seems like our formula right now in this area is working really well with the resource that you threw at it. The surveys was kind of surprising on the next page that we so far have received less surveys than we did actually last year, and we really were hoping to double that number from last year. The more data you have, the higher statistical confidence you have in the data. These are all the comments anybody had. There were no other ones, so that's why there's only 1 page of them. Last year, I think we actually had 2 pages of comments, so we've had less comments and less surveys. But overall, they pretty much were positive. The 2 for improvements, 1 we solved, 1 really was an issue that was not a trail that we do maintenance on. So,
Mr. Chair, Gary, if I might throw in here, and I'm speaking as a commissioner I don't know if I'll be around next year or not, or the coming years. I would hope that I am. But what I would like to see is a year over year on this usage. I think that's good information to know. And also you already have the year over year on the comments and that. And I think that's good information for us to know, to see how our parks are doing. You know, we put a lot of money into them. And could have notes on there, for instance, as we blow out more trails at the fire tower, you know, that'll indicate greater usage or less usage, whatever transpires. But I think that'd be good information for whoever's on the board in the coming years to evaluate how much we put into our parks and what that investment has reaped for the county. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
I hear you. Definitely can add that in there. Not a problem at all. Just for clarification, if I can, would you like to see just 2 years back to back, or do you want us to kind of build on the data and start to have a 3, 4, 5 year kind of year over year to kind of show a little bit longer trends on what's going on?
I would like to see 5 years, build it to 5 years, and then
We'll just
1
keep
year
adding to
drops
the data.
off and you add another one.
So would I.
Sounds good.
What? Longer trend.
We agreed again, right, Paul?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, great.
I think it's great. I love to see this. I mean, I'm kind of blown away at how many people drive in there, especially down at that little park. I mean, it's just,
Yeah. Mr. Chair, can they swim at that park too?
I think where the water comes over the dam, you can swim down there
Okay, cool.
if you want. But there's a lot of people that are fishing there all the time.
That's cool.
I think
Paul's
Gary,
probably going in and out, inflating
I
the
was gonna say, of
numbers.
the 458, how many times do you go through that counter?
Gary's right, though. There's more than one person in these vehicles.
Most of it is, yeah.
We could almost, you know, just,
I
we
got
could
some work to do
multiply
to
by
get
3 and
Milford
still
up. I
be
know,
safe,
you're
I
gonna get
think, Gary.
A
So,
lot of people.
This
it's a lot of people.
You know, 1,500 vehicles a week.
Yeah.
That's what we got. So if there is an average of 2 people in those vehicles, 3,000 people a week visiting our parks. 12 weeks in the summer, 36,000 people.
Yeah,
That's a pretty decent number to be talking about.
that's crazy.
And I think that's a report that at some point probably should go out to the city council of Pequot and Breezy Point. Could go to the townships down in Paul's area there to just show them what the investment the county's made in their areas to bring people to it. Probably more impactful for Breezy and Pequot because they're shopping in that. Paul will be building a store, I'm sure, down by South Long Lake to, you know, just sell knickknacks and different things.
That ain't a bad idea, actually.
Freedom store.
T-shirts.
T-shirts, there you go.
And possibly Pelican Lake would have more people going in and out if it wasn't gated.
T-shirts that say.
We got a complaint then. Did I
I
call
got a
you on
couple
that?
of those. Don't-
God.
Oh, Darrell Palmer must have called you. I got a plan for that.
Okay.
But I think you know, our story, we talk about sometimes, Bill, you talk about this, how we don't hear from certain segments, you know, the library being one, they don't come and build a relationship. We should put this kind of positive information out to these cities as our relationship back to them, and what are we doing to invest in their area? And Crosby should know about the Milford, and Cuyuna, and what else is over there? Trommel.
Me,
And then Irondale Township should hear about it.
that draws people on its own.
You draw people on.
Gary,
your-
there's 16 comments, but up here you say 20, or 24. Where are the others?
Some of them didn't comment, they just checked if they
Oh,
agreed or disagreed
okay.
to, if they liked the trail or not. Yep.
I just
Any
thought
other-
maybe you weeded out the bad ones and give us the good ones.
Well, look at this.
While I would like to do that, we won't do that.
Everybody loves it. That's your area too.
It's gotten a lot of recognition. Those guys do a good job.
They do.
Any other questions on the survey data at all?
Good stuff.
Okay.
Very good.
Thought we'd give you an update on the new trails and the facilities. So we have secured, it is 111 acres total around the fire tower park. That was just closed about a month ago, and
Who were the sellers? Boberg? No,
Caniff and Boberg were the two different parties, yeah. Boberg was the north 40, straight north, and then the Caniffs were like this remainder of a 40 that 371 sliced right through their 40 farm that they took. What you'll see on your packet or up here too is that blue, that's the new, I believe, has everybody been on the new fire tower? This thing died on me. The asphalt trail.
There's one behind you.
Thank you, trees. Here we go. Oh, this one's little, though, they barely see it. This is completed as far as the actual surface of the trail. We are planning, they threw in a hydro seed mix that I don't know if it looks the best. To me, it looks like, I don't know, but we're going to kind of put a mix of hardwoods to try to fill in the gap and close it in so you feel like you're more in the woods again with the asphalt trail. So I have the foresters putting a plan together, and we're going to pull a cost together to kind of, you know, move that in at least 6 to 8 feet to kind of close, literally close the gap in there to make it, bring it all back as native hardwoods. So you may see something next year on executing that. We'll maybe have a forester come in and show you guys what we do on a plan like that. That's really nitty gritty. If you don't want it, that's fine. The yellow trails are all the existing trails that are out there now, and you'll see the red, the greens, and the blues are all going to be put in. We should have a signed, we can't start work until we have a signed, the stipulation in the grant that we're getting from the DNR, which was $130,000. We had to match it 50%, is no work is done until we have a signed grant agreement. So they had 30 days. Their last day that they have is October 10th. Even with that date, we anticipate we're going to have all the trails done. Maybe not all the handrails. We might have to finish some of those up in the spring. All the trails will be punched in and cleaned up, grubbed, and chipped and everything, so it'll look pretty good. Granite tailings and all that's down. Steps in. Where you see the blue is where we'll put the steps and handrails. Anywhere there. The red.
Gary, as an elderly person, is there any chance elevators could go in there or some kind of?
We can.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe more of an escalator for you with a roof.
Yeah, an escalator at the park.
That'd be good.
The green actually is an old, these are kind of really old, overgrown trails. At one time, we believe there was a trail there that will be less work to actually put the trail in. The red are brand new, never had been a trail, so you got to start with nothing and build the base up. You know, of course, clear the path and stuff. Any questions on trail positioning, improvement? We still have, we'll have two, probably a pavilion here, maybe, I'm thinking here and here for that, and there'll be one up here by the fire tower that was approved with the budget amendments. And the fence, we're tearing the fence down, I believe, this fall, as long as the contractor can get the material that might be into.
You know what length of trails we have there currently, and what's the length we're gonna get?
I do have, I know it, I don't have it with me, and I apologize. I could do a quick little follow-up, though. I want to say we're almost, right now, we have almost 2 miles, and we should have about 5 miles when it's all said and done.
Cool. It's just gonna enhance that park again.
Yeah.
In, I think, some hopefully significant ways.
Yeah. I don't know if we have, we've heard comments on the, this is really rough, but I'll just hold it up like this real quick if you want. I should put up there is, we have about 8 to 10 more interpretive signs that we're going to strategically place. We've heard really good feedback on the signs that are out there now. There's areas where there used to be an old grazing site up there, so we're going to talk about what grazing does inside a forest and stuff like that, just for educational purposes. There's a wetland way up in the north east too, that we're gonna talk about wetlands and protections, all that kind of stuff. So really good interpretive opportunities, I think, for folks when they're using the trails. I think really brings a lot of value to folks. But hopefully you guys are there with that.
Are the trails walking only?
Currently, this park is just walking only, or golf cart. No, I was kidding.
It's signed that way, or
I'm sorry.
is it signed?
We have the bollards up that prevent, the vehicles
Oh,
from going onto the
okay.
tarred path. Those are bollards they can take out, because they
I was
did take them out. We did use a four-wheeler side by side to get
It was a golf
older
cart.
people up to the top when we did the commemoration. So
No golf carts.
those bollards are this big, and no, we don't allow golf carts in there normally. We did for the commemoration so that some of the elderly members of the Historical Society could make it to the top. Otherwise, they would have never made it.
So then
I
at
just
South
think,
Long Lake Park, me driving around that thing is the wrong thing to do. It'll fit in there between that big rock and that bollard.
As an FYI, we have the actual park ordinance that really kind of is gonna give us the direction on what type of signage you want at the parks and what we should restrict or not, is still one more NRAC away, I think, from a recommendation to come to you guys for your consumption. So that's actually going on, and I think, do you want to say no horseback riding, or whatever you may want to be clear about, and what you don't want, and you guys will actually get to really kind of hopefully get in the nitty gritty and go, I think it should be this, 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 and this. And then that's what we'll go do.
I don't know if you guys watched the Queen's funeral, but there was a lot of horses. And there was a lot of guys marching behind the horses, and there was no stepping around it. It was just, they just kept right on straight.
They weren't
So-
very smart, were they? Because you want to be in front of the horse, not in the back.
I know, but there was, so I don't know if we want to have a whole bunch of horse poop all over everything at our trail.
I think it should be, my position would be a walking trail only. So that's,
Yeah, and,
I was
and
thinking ATVs.
that's how it is. Currently, I will say one of the popular things, and it's not so much, it's in the wintertime, is snowshoeing. And, do you want to do any type of grooming or maintenance? I know it's kind of a taboo word, but that's out there for consideration if you guys ever wanted to pick that up. But I'll leave that where it's at. Sorry.
Don't get too carried away.
Okay.
But yeah, lots of good stuff going to go on there. And when they had the Art Savage sign dedication, and Bill and Tim were there, and I was there watching, and listen to these people talk about a destination. I mean, they're not even calling it a parking lot, it's like it's destination. And you go on TripAdvisor, and it's in the top 5 hits on research stuff in the area. You go, holy moly.
Wow.
That's kind of really cool stuff.
That is really cool. All the things you could come to Crow Wing County for, the Fire Tower Park is number 5 on the list. That's really saying something. Because we got a lot of really nice amenities here.
Oh, yeah.
yep.
So cool. That is so cool.
Is this meeting recorded?
I'm sorry.
I didn't hear.
I didn't hear either.
She wanted to know if it was recorded, the meeting.
Yes. And streamed.
Yep. In 2 locations.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions about parks and where we're at with usage? We're pretty pleased with that usage so far. I hope it can continue to get better and better. I just think that the staff is doing when I go to the parks, I'm impressed, and I'm not always the easiest.
You're high functioning.
Yeah, I'm high functioning. Okay, we'll talk about forest roads, and there's a whole system, a network of roads here that we probably have never talked to the county board about, at least I can't recall, in 14 years, but here we are.
Yeah, and when you look at this map here, I got to point out, this isn't a fully inclusive map. When I went to staff, there are some other things in there that we need to have some more internal and do's and don'ts, and trying to get a more of a better grip on all of the maintenance that we're doing out there on, and this is just the forest roads, we also have a maintenance plan on our trails too. And so this kind of just gives you where the majority of them are. Most of our county forest roads from the central part of the county north, we really only have a handful that are south of, you could say, Brainerd Baxter. And you see them there on the map. And, you know, we have historically 2 or 3 land commissioners prior would go and record these as official recorded county forest roads. And unless we would, you know, get rid or cancel that document, they're going to be out there forever as a forest road. And I think there's some research to be done on, well, that was maybe good 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Actually, some of that stuff goes back, and there's a few that even go earlier than that. But is that what we want to do moving forward? So I think this is an area that it probably doesn't get talked about a lot because it's one of those that we mainly have done this historically for probably 3 big reasons. One, the forestry staff and the, you could say the quote unquote, the land commissioner will look the next 3 to 5 years where those harvest plans are going to be and where they're going to go log. That's the main focus of where they're going to go fix the roads up before they go in, and we believe that that brings the best return on some of the stumpage prices. The next thing that we worry about is where we go in and make sure we have good access to the timber sales is if there's maybe we went in 2 years ago and did a sale, and that road is in really good shape, and it might only take a little bit of X, Y, or Z to kind of keep it in good condition. We may do some preventative maintenance to try to keep it at a maintained status is what we have in the office. And then the third reason why we may fix some of these is we get calls from time to time where folks have a hunting cabin somewhere and they've been using a forest road for the last however many years, or it's a group of folks that use it. And if it's within 3, 5, 6 years and we're in the neighborhood with a dozer or we have a close place for maybe some pit run gravel or something to build it up. Sometimes we'll also do some of that fixing. So it's a little bit kind of case by case, a little bit of this, but what that looks like is what I tried to do from the request was to show some photos and put some context into what you're looking at. And so this very first photo on the next page, we actually got a request from first responders over in Cuyuna and the Crosby area that they had an accident on the Cruiser Kettle Trail. It was very difficult for them to get back to the injured person. So with board direction, we went and County Forest Road 22 now looks like this. And we grade it about at least 2 times a year. There's some real steep topography in parts of it. It washes out from time to time. And the feedback we've gotten from the first responders over there has been very positive. They've been very thankful. And again, this is done with some of the proceeds that we use from those types of activities. The next one is another road that was fixed up. It was totally washed out. So they established a crown so that it's still really good and accessible. As we just keep moving through, another road that has been fixed up. This one we'd put a culvert in, widened the road, made it a little bit safer where there's a curve kind of coming around there. What we're doing with these, we don't have an engineering staff or anything. Once in a while, either myself, it had been Ryan and his staff, will look at a situation and how can you improve it, and based on what we've done in the past, we try to replicate and make things better. In here, you'll see a culvert. This one's actually crushed. So this is actually on that list that will be coming up, that we want to, remove the culvert, put in a new culvert so it can drain properly and so it doesn't wash out.
Make sure, Gary, when we're putting those culverts in, that they go in at the exact same elevations that they were in before.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
It's important, because we can't change drainage. If we change drainage and flood someone, we're liable.
Oh, by all means, we definitely want to flood anybody by any means. Most of these where there isn't a house within, a few miles of where we're at, but
The water's gonna flow.
yeah.
And the downstream is the ones that we always end up hearing from. I think about that constituent out in your area, Paul, down in the southeast.
That is right. That's something that I actually learned is I asked Tim Bray to lower, because the neighbors, my constituents, wanted the culverts lowered so it would lower more water over here. And I didn't know that there's
Very strict laws.
strict statute that says you can't lower it. And actually, I think we spent $5,000 to do a study on whether to lower it or not, and they said no. This group that does it, I don't know. That's something else I learned.
It's a thing that your staff probably wouldn't know about.
No, I think we replace roughly, 12 to 15 culverts a year.
The chances are pretty good that no one's watching.
So I guess I can't attest that we did or didn't do it. We've just been doing that for quite a while, when we have an issue with one or we need a new one.
Add it to your list.
Yes,
Of
will
things to
do.
check on.
So a question, Tim, how would they know, so they've replaced a bunch of them already, what was the original level? How would they know that?
It would be very difficult to determine that today, unless there was some record of the installation, and I doubt it, because these are forest roads. These are lower level maintenance than a minimum maintenance road.
Right.
They are primarily just used to get our foresters in and out, or contractors in and out to harvest. So we don't maintain these for regular vehicle traffic in and out all the time. I think we have some vehicle traffic on them, so we just need to make sure that we don't change drainage. That's
But I
all.
think, Steve, on at least what I learned is on like county roads, they actually record it so they know exactly where it's
Right.
at. So they can put whatever they put there and go,
Yep.
okay, here's where it needs to go. Yeah, so I can see what Tim's talking about. I don't think we're,
Before you start, you have to shoot the elevation.
yes.
But that would be the engineering staff from the highway department generally doing that, wouldn't
I
it?
think these guys got Trimble units too, but
Yeah, we do. We have a surveyor on, for a resource if we needed it.
Okay.
I would think if you're taking the culvert out, I'd shoot it and then
shoot the
when you put
elevation
it
on
in,
both sides.
and so you're good to go.
Yeah. A few more examples on the next page. One, it looks like it's pretty good. My understanding, talking with staff, is that that's almost inaccessible in the spring, that two-wheeled path there. And the next one, I don't know how many have ever drove the old grade road that runs up into Cass County.
Yep.
And just north up there, that's where Inbridge put the pipeline in, kind of comes down. We just get clipped in the north west corner of our county. But the old grade road is really for every other, I think, person that I know that lives in the northern part of the county, it's almost like a township or road. It's heavily used. It's amazing. And I'm like, how did we ever get to where we're at? But we've been maintaining it for years. And what it is a road that was built with white pine timbers, is my understanding, that they took out all the mud, filled it full of wood timbers, and then covered it with gravel and stuff. So every spring, well, this looks good now. Every spring when the frost comes up, there's all this clay that gets pushed up. Oh, you maybe know what I'm talking about. I just know enough to be dangerous. It's a monster to maintain. It says it's millions if you ever wanted to actually fix it to how you would build a road now, but
We don't
I
corduroy
don't think there's
roads
any
anymore.
appetite for that.
No, we don't corduroy roads anymore.
Yeah, corduroy, that's what they
That
call
was.
it, yeah.
And now we dig out the wetland down to good soils, replace it with good soils, build it back up. I don't know if you want to go to that extreme for a forest road. And so corduroying here probably is okay,
Yeah, and we just make, we
but it's
just,
gonna boil.
you know, we just try to keep it in a decent condition and keep going with it. I guess is what we've been trying to do.
County roads used to be that way. Remember growing up?
Oh, yeah.
Driving on a county road in the spring, on a dirt county road? Good God, there were wheel ruts. I remember anyway.
Knock your teeth out.
So Gary, the whole purpose of this is just to kind of, is for our access to, mainly for our access to get to, if we have timber sales in there, rather than just maintaining it like maybe once every 20 years when we have a timber sale, that this way that it's kind of maintained. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like old grade, you know, there's probably 40,000, 30,000 acres within, you know, 3-4 miles that there's so many offshoots.
Okay.
That is, it's not that we're just up there once every 20 years. We're up there probably every year, every other year doing timber sales on a different part of it. That's why it kind of it all gets kind of maintained. Yeah. So like that one would be like, you know, when I listened to Tim Bray talk about, you know, the collector roads and then little offshoots and stuff, old grade would be like a collector road for us in the forest road world. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Just a few more examples where there's going to need to be maintenance that is scheduled for actually this fall is here you'll see an actual culvert is just sitting alongside the road, so we basically get rid of that and put a new culvert back into the road.
Gary, can I stop you and just ask, just thought of another question. So if, well, let's say hypothetically, if it's a township road or a county road that this logging road, forest road comes off of, when you turn onto this forest road, is there any signage that says anything there?
Not on most of them,
Oh.
no. We do
Just,
have a few, county road, county forest road, 22 is a good example where we actually put the little green sign at the beginning of it, and then we put the blue bladed 911 addressing points for first responders to have quicker access to get to where they need to be.
Okay.
But most of our forest roads don't have hardly any signage.
So let's say there's a logger way back on a forestry road, and God forbid they have an accident or something with a, whatever it be, chainsaw. So how would they figure out how to get back there? Do you have some blue signs that they could go off of?
Typically, with a forester or a logger, they have
GPS.
yes, yeah, that's the answer. GPS. I'm sure there's some. I can't. It's not coming to the front of my brain here to spit out how we ensure that everybody's safe, not just our recreators, but, you know, our loggers as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think in the
Curious.
Cruiser's Kettle situation, it wasn't that they didn't know where he was. It was that they had difficulty getting to him.
Oh, I see.
And so that is why this maintenance issue is important, because we not only have loggers going in there, but we know we have recreators going in there as
Right,
well.
right.
ATV traffic, some bikers, walkers, who knows what, bird watchers.
Well, and just about every single, it's not a big deal in the winter as far as maintenance goes, but every single forest road you can just about imagine, snowmobiles use them.
Oh,
You know,
sure.
They use them. Absolutely. Yep. If we get snow. Yeah. And then just that last little page of the forest roads. There we do have more than you would think of these areas where they'll have pooling water, and you know, we continue to try to push out that, fill it in with tailings, cover it with some whether it's class 5 or maybe even not that nice of gravel, but to continue to keep the roads in good condition. And if you let these go and go and go, they just get wider and worse, deeper rutted and that kind of stuff. But we have a ton of that we continue to try to reshape and cap. And we have a handful of these that are really rocky, that are even challenging for our foresters to get back into, that We like to, when we have the resource, we doze out the rock, reshape crown, reditch. Usually once you do that, those roads are in pretty good shape for quite a while. You know, it's not like you gotta go back every single year once you throw that kind of work at them. So, any questions on our forest road maintenance? I think there's, oh, I didn't put it in here, but I should have added it here. I'm a little remiss, but, you know, we have a wish list of all the roads that we'd like to get to a maintenance, and with the years that we've had for the last 3 or 4 years, we've been able to have some additional monies go towards these, and I think they're in better shape than they were 5 years ago. You know, we'd like to maybe see them a little bit better, and when I say we, it's us trying to manage, you know, when you're having a timber sale, when somebody's sitting in the auction, if you've ever been to one, and they're, you know, everybody's bidding, just like a land sale, but it's for the wood. One of the big things that they first think about is, what's the access to get to the wood? And so, you know, the better access we have, even though it might not be right to that 80 or 160 tract, if it's within, you know, we have a good road coming within the vicinity, that makes it a lot easier for them, because they're gonna have to punch in the access eventually. But instead of going 4 miles of that type of work, if they only have to go half a mile or a mile, it makes that wood a lot more attractive, at least sellable, and hopefully where we believe that it shows up in the stumpage price. That kind of makes some sense. So that's why we try to reinvest some of that money right back into the roads.
I think we just approved, was it 100,000?
Yeah, in addition.
How far will that go down your list of improvements?
Yeah, I believe it's going to be 6, 7 roads that are really going to get a lot of work done to them. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question, Gary. When you look at selling that stumpage, okay? So you have, your foresters are determining what plots to put out there. Are you coordinating the year prior to that for the access roads that would give the best access to those pieces of property as the ones that you would repair?
Yeah, we're looking actually out 3 to 5 years, you know, and it's not always exactly, let's fix that one because we're going there. We do also kind of evaluate, are there some that are in way worse condition than one that we could fix up a little bit better? Or do we think it's in good enough shape that they're going to still think it's decent access? So it's kind of that kind of makes sense. But we are trying to anticipate where we're going and throw the money there first. That is the first priority. Yep.
Any questions on forest road maintenance, the direction we're headed, how we handle that?
We can tar any of these that you want.
I will say, I'm the one who asked for the pictures and that, and I appreciate these pictures. It's a good education for me to understand what takes place out there and the challenges that you have to maintain those, because I know there's, you know, they're basically a low, like Tim said, less than a,
Yeah.
and it's the lowest of the lowest out there, I guess is
Correct.
how I say it.
Lower than a minimum maintenance
Right.
rate.
I will say I appreciate this too. You know, I'm almost 10 years here, and it's the first time I've ever heard about this.
I'm sure
So,
there are other things
it's-
like this that, and so if you ever hear about anything
Yeah.
we're doing and you say, that's how we got here. Oh, let's get a presentation on it. There's nothing to hide here, of course.
No.
But we don't get to every little topic.
Kind of blows your mind, the things from A to Z that this county, or I guess all counties work on, most counties work on. But it's amazing. This was good, Gary.
Well, and we have a really nice utility vehicle. We have a couple of really good condition forest trucks. If anybody ever wants to say, hey, I'd like to go take a look at a road here, there, wherever, we're more than happy to take you out there and do a little tour on, you know, condition of any roads that you're interested in. And like, I think it took us, Rosemary and Paul and Doug, I don't know how long it took us to get access to the Russell Lake land down south of town. But once we had got that, you know, we do get new roads once in a while, and that one is only like about a mile long. It's not that far back in there, But when we got that, it looked worse than the one two-wheel path. There wasn't much of anything to get back there. And so when we got that, we decided, well, let's make it a decent road to access this land that's in the back that has been in, debate for the last decade. And so that's what we did with that one. And then we just, now that it's like that, we try to maintain it. So every so often, new ones come along that, we just add to the list too.
You sub out all the work for the maintenance?
What's that?
You sub out the work? for
Yeah.
maintenance?
Currently, most of our sub work is with Homevig excavating currently.
Perfect.
One of these days, we'll get Tim Bray to help us out. He's probably watching now. He's
Good luck with that. Okay,
okay.
moving on.
Moving on to the Park Solid Waste Building update. I thought appropriate for you guys, just a quick little update and a reminder, or refresher, I should say. Our current hazardous household waste building sits over here next to the active landfill. So this is the existing location. We are currently building a new building. These two buildings, actually all three of these buildings have been removed. This building right here has been moved over here and raised up for the electronics drop-off, and we have a cargo container that sits next to it that we use to put the cardboard totes in to keep the rain off of them. So while we keep that going, currently all of our mattresses are being landfilled until the building is built, and we'll start the program of which ones can we recycle and which ones we can't. And what it looks like, I think I have we got a couple of pages, good. Again, the operational efficiency from staff, the offices here, but we have recycling and electronics and mattresses here. Then we'd run over here and do some HHW. The staff, just the time driving back and forth, you would not believe how much there was back and forth in a day between the two buildings. And so by having customers come in, again, it's just, I'm so excited for the efficiencies and I think the level of our customer service that's going to improve by having staff present at the one location for the one-stop shop. I think we are going to get some really great feedback on the location. The building itself, again, just as a refresher, the next page is those buildings that have been removed. Again, this one's sitting right about here. The crusher's coming in and the shredder's out there this week, I think, so we can have more room when all the building materials come in. We're going to stage it off over here as they build it. Again, that's kind of the conceptual drawing. I threw in the latest rendering on the next page. That's the actual color scheme of what the building will be. This is the building that was ordered. So you have cobalt blue, Lane's coating and canopy with ash gray as the main building. Kind of goes with the Brainerd theme, water and that kind of stuff. I know you're more of a pink fan, Steve, but I couldn't get pink.
What about green?
I'm sorry to hear that.
What about green?
Well, we could have done green, but the green that was in the option was, I guess, not the.
Too light of a green?
Yeah, it was just kind of.
A light green wouldn't be good. We need a dark green.
Yeah, it was maybe not the best green, but. So there's what it's going to look like. You can see where the positioning of the overhead doors, service doors. We'll have the product exchange sitting right here. We'll be coming and talking about, I've seen a model, Todd County's building a new building too. They got a $4 million grant. And I was looking at their interior plans and they call it a reuse, I can't even remember the name now, but I thought that actually maybe says what we're doing more than product exchange. I just thought some of the it's a good time to maybe look at some of the titling of some of those things too. So you guys all get to see that and weigh in if you want to change anything or not over the next 3-4 months. And then the last slide that I have for you today is just, I was out at the landfill last week. I believe this was on Friday, just to give you where we're at. I believe they're getting ready for the footings. It's either today or tomorrow they start to pour, so they'll do the footings. And by Friday, we should hopefully have a slab in. And so then that'll, have a week or two to cure up really nice and good. And now then we'll be waiting for is the still to arrive. And on the prior slides, you would have seen a little bit of ETA. I guess I blew right over that. The bottom page of where the existing locations were just kind of gives you the project timeline, and we're shooting for owner occupied, or when we open that building, right about the middle of May. So that's what we're holding. Should work pretty good, as long as the big unknown is the wait time on the materials. That's the only thing we really don't have a lot of control over. But anticipated 10 to 14 weeks, but as soon as it starts to come in, we're gonna erect the bones of it and then move on. Questions or concerns on that timeline? But that's what I'm gonna continue to work with our contractors, any staff that we have doing anything, to try to get that thing done before and open in May.
May.
Just another question off a different subject. What about the land sales? I know we've just been having record-breaking land sales. Do you have any idea, could next year be another record-breaking? Do you have any idea? Are you identifying kind of now what the sale of lands might be? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because we have a list of non-conservation fragmented 40s that we had gotten approval to sell, instead of selling them all in 1 year, we started this about 2 or 3 years ago. We wanted to not just have, $8 million in 1 year and then spend 2 of it and give 6, we try to strategize this so that we can have a little. While it's still probably a 4 to 5 year old really nice upswing, it will end, but I think we have 2 more years of new 40s introduced into the land sale that will bring some good returns and still have some really strong results.
I know we had the conversation years ago about trying to sell stuff that we don't think fits our plan, and then we were going to look for stuff that might, if it's next to 1,000 acres, and there's Potlatch has probably sold all their 40s, but if there was a 40 that made sense to have, we were going to try to grab those up. Are we still looking on the lookout, or?
Yeah, we are. We have a list, a wish list of private-owned 40s that we would like to acquire. We have actually, the last year or so, we've been kind of waiting to see on the conservation fund. We kind of were trying to see if there was any appetite for 3, 4, 5,000 acre acquisition from that organization to really supplement our forestry activity. If you do something like that, it changes the harvest plan. Right now we're running about 1,450, that's 1,450 acres a year that we harvest, and whatever the stumpage price is, that's about half of the total of that apportionment. So I always kind of figure about $1 million. You add that kind of land to your land holding, and you could take that 1,400 to like 17 or 1,600 acres, and you get that much more annual revenue off of that extra land. But there's some other things you're going to need to consider, because right now that's being taxed. But that conservation fund, their goal is to get that into some other entity's hand. So there's a strong chance one way or another, if it isn't us, maybe it's state, some other type of nonprofit that's doing, where we might not be able to collect the property taxes, so do we want to try to use and have that still have some kind of an income stream to do, some of our other work? I know that gets to be, it's a little premature on that, but
I know.
we've been looking at some of that from an acquisition standpoint.
What about when you do log off a piece, and I'm sure the foresters go, I would assume that sometimes they say, we're not gonna take this tree and this, they kind of mark out and then leave those. And then maybe some of it would make sense to do kind of a clear cut. Do they do that? Do we go in and like plant seedlings afterwards, or?
Yeah, we, not on every site. If it's a heavy aspen site, we won't plant any seedlings because aspen in 3 years will be, 5 foot tall. And thicker, you can barely even walk in there. So if it's a primary aspen cut, I would say no. But in those, if we have red pine, white pine that are 20, 30 years old, those will definitely be reserved, and hopefully there'll be some seed plants because we want a diverse, forest. We don't want all just one. It's not good because if something happens to that species, it can totally wipe out that whole forest. So we do want a diverse, tree cover there. But we planted, they're actually planning bud capping the next 3 weeks. I can't remember. I should have that. I apologize, I didn't do the forestry stuff, but I want to say it was over 30,000 saplings this year.
Okay.
And then we'll go back now and we'll actually be using the environmental techs. So they work at the landfill, the parks, and as the parks are slowing down, we're going to now for a few weeks, they're going to go help us coordinate the bud capping, which is really nice because we're down one forester right now. So it's just shifting stuff, but so that the deer don't eat the tops of those trees and kill them, so we'll put the bud cap on there.
What about can I ask another one?
Oh, sure.
Plenty of time. Sure. Remember that there was last year, remember there was a gentleman down in my neck of the woods, they didn't want the 40 cleared off, and he was upset. But have you got any update on that, or I never heard any?
I don't believe that has been cut yet. I think that's a winter cut.
Oh, this winter?
I know that Fletcher Logging bought that sale, and I had checked. It's been a little while, maybe 2 months now, and I know it hadn't been cut then. And
Okay.
I think if I remember correctly, it's more of a winter sale is what they were going to do there.
I see.
So it's probably going to be this winter.
Okay.
Gary, a quick question. When they cut the residue that's left after the fact, do they spread that out? Is that for rotting purposes and that, or do they
Yep,
pile it up? Or?
the slash is most of those contracts have that they leave a lot, most of that slash around. There'll be some of it that's chipped. That really, I think Fletcher's the only one that does main chipping now, and chipping has really, the price of wood chips have really reduced. There's not a demand as there once was, but here nor there. But most of that slash gets spread around, and yeah, it rots, and it's good for the forest, good for the wildlife is what the experts say. Now, people you just say like me, I go, geez, I got to walk through that stuff? I don't want to do that, but that is how to continue to make and have that forest regenerate a lot stronger. Instead
Probably
of
the biggest complaint
cutting
you
off.
get, ain't it?
What's that?
On a harvest, it's probably the biggest complaint.
Yeah, so they
What's
don't want to see
left
that.
over after.
Yep.
But I can tell you that we had a question. I had a question when we were at the annual ATV convention up at 50 Lakes over the weekend, and about that, and why do they just leave it? And I could only talk about my own experience of the storms of 15 and 16 that blew down all the beautiful jack pines behind my house. And DNR could care less about it because it was a 100-foot buffer when they logged off on the 40 acres behind us. And eventually I paid to have it chipped up, but man, does that degrade in a hurry, and it just becomes like a sponge out there until it degrades even further. But it's really not that hard to go over. I mean, my little lawnmower will go over it, so the ATVers, even though they don't like to see it like that, they still have access to that property if they want to, and even walking, it's not difficult or anything, so that was my answer to them, is, it expedites the degradation of the, whatever's left over, if you chip it up or just leave it there, even some of the logs, it breaks down pretty fast, actually, but it's still 5 to 8 years before it really breaks down, but,
Yeah, and,
it's not that difficult.
if there's a pretty identified used ATV or any kind of trailer, I won't just pick on them, if we know that it's more than just a very limited occasional use, we will sometimes go, make sure on this one to, when you're taking all the slash around, we still want to leave this, nice little path wherever it maybe goes back to a little lake or something, to keep let's just say to keep the peace sometimes. So
Well, if
I know that sounds a little funny, but that's what we try to do in some cases.
And if they drive over, it would help break it down even faster, so.
Well, there you go.
Good.
Good presentation on both fronts.
I believe that's what we have for you today. Do you have any questions for us?
I will say I was surprised to see that the South Long Lake Park outdid the Milford Mine. That was kind of concerning to me, so we'll take a look at how we can bump Milford
Get a
up.
camera out there, you'll see Paul backing up, going over 20
Put a
times a
GPS
day.
I think there's a commissioner down there front-loading those numbers down there. He's just driving in and out, back and forth every morning for 3 hours.
Yeah, we could try to find one that counts golf carts, then we would know.
Then we know, it'd be easy. Thank you.
Yeah, good job, thanks.
Good report.
Mr. Chairman, that's all we have.
All right, well, we will